And I'm ready to hop over, Brian, to AEW's Fright Night. The ratings are scary. We're going to catch people up on that here just in a few minutes, but we got to talk. They were in Edinburgh, Texas. If they said I missed it, what part of Texas is Edinburgh, Texas in that we would, the Houston, the Dallas, the San Antonio, the Amarillo, the Lubbock, the San Angelo, the Corpus Christi, where the fuck is Edinburgh?
Hidalgo County.
That would be way down south in South Texas, way down yonder in the Paw Patch.
Reynosa is nearby. Reynosa, Texas.
Is that near Harlingen, Brownsville? Is that part of, that's way down there. That is actually, there are parts of Texas that are further south than many parts of northern Mexico.
Yeah, this is as close to the Mexican border as you can get.
So the point is, it wasn't a big metropolitan area is what I'm trying to say. And I wasn't sure where it was. But tonight being the night that we're talking about, they did what I said they ought to do, kinda. Remember I said the other day, geez, the show came on, and by the time they showed clips and they had matches announced and billboards and graphics and then a low energy behind the backstage promo, whatever. Well, this time they went straight into action. And the first thing that you saw and heard was Pockets coming to the ring. So they went straight into a match, straight into action, but they did it where you can't take it seriously from the start. And to compound that, they teamed up Darby, their top babyface that's not out injured, and they teamed him up with the mascot. So if you're just watching this show come on the air, why should we take this guy seriously if he's with Nimrod? And then the opponents were Danny Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. And they gave them a long walk and spooky lighting with dreary music. And the fans are sitting there going, what the fuck? Seriously, Garcia and Yuta both, they've got no look. They've got no physique. They've got no aura. They've got no charisma. They've been shoved down everybody's throat and overexposed on this program. So fans are sitting there like, what the fuck? And again, it looks like the children are at recess. A trick-or-treat tornado tag team match. No tags, no rules. The rule was the pin or submission has to happen in the ring. Otherwise, just here they go. The kids are at recess. And the visual of it is ridiculous. I think Pockets is the biggest fucking guy of the bunch here. So at least they kept it to 11 minutes. But Darby got the scorpion on Wheeler useless, and he tapped out.
What do you think of the Scorpion Deathlock being Darby's new finisher?
Well, it works because I don't mind that because it ties into Sting, and at least that's telling some type of coherent story through the thing. But again, I don't even mind. That's what Yuta and Garcia ought to be there for at this point, is put over top baby faces. But you mean to tell me you can't get a more serious partner for a guy that you're pushing to Darby's level than the unfunny joke? And Tony still has not realized after 6 years now that what the fuck? If this guy was going to be anything, he would have been something, and he's never been anything except a curiosity. So, yeah. But I know what you're saying, Brian. What we need to discover who the number one contenders for the tag team title is. Isn't that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying to yourself?
Naturally.
Well, naturally, then we're going to find out with a four-way. It gets better later on in the program when you find out, folks, what else they did. But now it's time for a 4-way tag team match to determine the number one contender for the tag team title that I assume then will be defended at Full Gear, which is their next pay-per-view in a few weeks. And boy, they brought in teams from all over the world, Brian. The Hardley Boys, FTR, Kevin Knight and Hong Kong Phooey, and Jungle Jackoff and Dino Douche. The same 4 fucking teams. Can anybody do the math, by the way, out there? We got nuclear astrophysicists in the audience out there. What percentage of AEW television matches are actual, like, regular matches, 1 against 1 or 2 against 2? And what is the percentage of some type of multiple man, 3-way, 4-way, battle royal, gauntlet, scramble, whatever the fuck they call them? Do you think it's 70-30 for the multimans?
It may be. There sure are a lot of them.
So, 4 teams here, the 3 contingents of children, including the patient zeros of trampoline wrestling. And there's FTR. They look like 2 truck drivers at a casting call for a Blue Boy magazine shoot. And they're going to do this for a long time. They open the match. Dax backs old Hong Kong Phooey up into the ropes and hit him with 4 chops and 8 punches in 8 seconds. And I swear to God, Spitball didn't go to a knee. He came off the ropes on offense. He then hit Dax with 19 kicks. And Dax was just leaning up against the ropes and he didn't go down. And then he just kind of slumped on the middle rope. The toughest guy in the Lollipop Guild cannot knock a motherfucker down with 19 kicks, and Dax couldn't put this guy to a knee with 8 punches and 4 chops. So, the break spot, I wrote this one down. I was trying to fast forward through as much of this as possible. Dax is going to superplex Kevin Knight off the top turnbuckle onto the floor, onto the covey of quail that Jim Ross phrased it a few years ago. And they got under Dax just fine. Since he was taking a flat back bump off the top rope, I'm glad they did. But he suplexed, Kevin Knight went past him. And he over-rotated, and it bent his left leg underneath him, and he sold it. And it obviously didn't injure him badly because he got back in the match later on after a while. But it should have broke his leg. Either he's just flexible or he didn't land with just enough weight. But when they came back, they bore shit. The Cucamonga kids like to play with their friends. The fans like the Lizard, but they won't feature him because he's always with the children. Perry, I think even the AEW fans are like, fuck, we don't care anymore. And they did the alley-oop stuff they always do, and then finally FTR beat Knight with the Shatter Machine, about 15 minutes bell to bell. So now they get the title match with, what is their team name? Bro Dildo.
Bro Dito.
There you go. I mean, did anything about this stand out? Because it's the same shit they all always do and more of it.
You know, it's one of these matches. I never knew what the name was. I saw a clip because a lot of the listeners saw this and were so offended they had to send it over endlessly. Where I guess Brian Alvarez declared that the Young Bucks are the greatest tag team of all time. And he was referring to like this kind of match. He called it the party match.
Party match.
He said it a few times. So I'm like, is that what they consider it? Like, that's their style. We do the party match where The referee's there, but it's not like he's doing anything. And lots of people get ready to have people land on them, and stupid things happen, and everyone waits for their turn to do something.
Shouldn't they have a big bowl of dip in there if it's a party match?
Well, I think we've seen all this, but some people still really seem to be into it.
As I will say something after I just crucified the WWE earlier for being boring as goddamn the growth of pubic hair. They at least don't do so much that the guys are always trying to kill each other and still nobody remembers what the fuck happened. It's just they hardly do anything instead of so mind-numbingly much. So then the Don Phallus family, Brian, is numerous, and they had to have a summit. And they had to all come out. Well, I say all. They had to all come out except whoever's injured. And I don't even know if there's any others that they didn't have besides that. But there was already, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there was Lance Archer, there was Kyle Felcher, there was Josh Alexander, there was Rocky Romero, there's Mark Davis, Oblada, the two mask guys that I had no idea. And then they said that it was Chichia and Clone. And they made a big deal that Take a Shit wasn't there because of travel difficulties. And who else is hurt? There's a couple more that's in it that's hurt.
Trent Beretta.
What? I didn't know he was in it.
Yeah, I think he joined when Rocky Romero joined.
What the fuck happened to him? A goddamn brain transplant? We haven't seen him in ages. Not that I'm complaining. But anyway, they all sit down, and it's all the group of miscellaneous heels, and we've mentioned all the problems with this organization and wondered why Don doesn't actually manage anybody. And then they gave Don a painting of all of them, which was very homoerotic in nature. And then they had several of the members speak, like Rocky is the one that presented the painting. And then Josh Alexander pitched to the screen for a highlight video, which had great highlights about how dominant the Don Phallus family is, and no mention of any detail about why the fuck is there 15 of you and nobody ever fucking actually gets managed by this guy? And he can't be bothered to go to ringside for your matches. He just sits on commentary. And he's always making matches where guys in his own group have to fight each other or can't get along. So then Kyle Felcher squeaked. And the fans chanted asshole at him because he's got a little heat. But he started reading the oath that they all had to take before they joined the family. And it was getting into we must put Don before all else. And we agree to save any member of the family from any danger at peril to ourselves. And then out all of a sudden to music came Take a Shit, who was there after all, didn't have travel difficulties. And he came out with, what belt is that, Brian?
The IWGP Championship.
Okay, he's got the IWGP title, and Oblada has the unified title, and Kyle has a belt. And they all come out, and they've all got a belt and the same thing. Take and Okada stare at each other. And Don tries to get Take to take it and say, you got to settle down. And it was long and boring and slow, where Don's like, I make the decisions in the family. I need you to shake his hand. And the fans were getting into it. They don't want to see him shake his hand. They could turn Take babyface fairly easily here if they capitalize on it. But then at the same time, I was about to say that he can't fucking talk or do a promo, but None of the other baby faces can anyway, so that wouldn't hurt him. But Don's like, it's for about the honor. It's for me. Do it for me. And then Take puts his hand out and Okada gives him the finger. So he kind of, again, shit in his face because then Take can't, he's not supposed to hit him. The others get in between them. And Don announces, I'm going to make you work together. You're going to team up on Collision Saturday. And I think if when he got that finger, if fucking Take it had turned around and slapped the shit out of him, he'd have showed he had something. Then they could have got in between. And as far as if they're going to do an angle where they team up and then break up, make up to break up, well, then don't do it on Collision. That nobody's going to see on Saturday against the World Series game and Saturday night's main event. Otherwise than that, it was a wonderful segment, Brian. I rest my case. What do you think?
It's the World Series Saturday night's main event, and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein on Svengoolie. It's a really tough night.
Yes. A lot of competition.
I don't know. They've been doing this for a while. It used to be, obviously, when Punk was there, and then for even a while after it, it was almost like Collision was its own universe. But now there's so many things that it's like, oh, they're actually doing an angle that leads to the show I don't watch on Saturday. They don't do things that, like, build up the next Dynamite. It's to build the show that no one is tuned. Like, you're not going to get more people to tune into that show.
Because have you read what they're presenting on the rest of that show lately? I mean, it's fringe names at best for this company.
I had not seen the names, but I'll take you at your word.
I'm just saying, I read the recap of either last week's or the week beforehand. I'm like, what the fuck? It's just, they got no mojo going. But the eventual breakup between Take a Shed and Okada will, I'm sure, lead to the dream match that all the AEW fans that are already watching and absolutely nobody else wants to see when they break up and fight each other. Because, I mean, even for his countrymen, I don't have faith in Okada to try to work in any way hard to get this guy over, despite the fact he's being paid millions. He's going to lazy through it and lounge around like he always does.
He's like the wrestling embodiment of Triple H's booking.
And just get by with it.
And then,
just kind of, yeah.
Good last 30 seconds.
Well, and sometimes that doesn't come off. You know, I'm telling, I think, to be honest, a lot of the members of the Don Fallis family should have something to fall back on because they're being misrepresented. Nothing worse than a crummy accountant or an evil manager or agent, somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, draining your money, not getting you the representation you deserve. And then there you are, just cast aside like a crumpled Kleenex on the peep show booth floor of life, Brian, with no skills to back you up. Wait a minute now. That's Harpo Marx, not the sound of money being made. You know what you need.
Oh, wait a minute. I know.
See, you had the wrong button. That's the sound of, what do I do now? In a panic because you're broke. And then cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's the sound of making money. Well, you can't make too much. Now you're making way too much money. If you get 4 cha-chings, the IRS is going to investigate you. Ladies and gentlemen, you can turn your dreams into reality and money by teaming up with our friends at Shopify. If you've just been, as I said, lingering in obscurity as a member of the Don Fallis family and you don't have anything to back yourself up in the world, you need somebody to take your dreams and turn them into reality, a website and products and ready to go merchandise and product descriptions and product images and discount codes and email and social media campaign Shopify. Okay, they could sell ice to an Eskimo. They could sell pussy on a troop train. I guess that wouldn't be too hard.
Again, these may not be the best examples for our fine friends, the good, classy people who do their job well at Shopify.
I understand you have to be over 21 to be able to sell pussy on the internet, courtesy of anything to do with Shopify. That's why the purple pay button.
No, I don't think that has anything to do with Shopify. And again, Shopify is someone you could trust just like we do with our online store, ArcadianVanguard.com. Get your drive-through t-shirts today. We trust them. You can too.
Because anybody that presses that purple shop pay button means business. They're going to send you money, and Shopify will gather it all up in a bushel basket and dump it over your head. So you'll be swimming in it.
It's not exactly how it works, but
all of our commercials end up with people swimming in money. That's because we have people that want to get ahead in the world. We got astrophysicists. What was the astrophysicist's name? David?
David. Dr. David.
If you want to start your own astrophysicist business where people bring astros in to get them physicists, then you get it. You get a virtual storefront here with Shopify, a commerce platform behind millions of businesses. I bet they don't have too many astrophysicists selling astrophysicist things. And yet you can make a fortune right now. Go to shopify.com/JCE and you can sign up for a $1 a month trial period, David. So for that $1, they'll build you a website advertising your astrophysicistness to all the people that are in need of physicisting their astros. Shopify.com/JCE. It's only going to cost you $1 a month to be an astrophysicist in business for yourself. Not having to worry about working for the planetarium or NASA or the Russians or the little duchy of fucking Fenwick. You can work for yourself and build your own goddamn atomic bombs.
You can work for yourself and not do that. You can work for yourself and study and work hard and create
a great product. On Shopify, they can press the purple pay button to pay you not to set your nuclear missiles off over major metropolitan areas of the world.
Again, we were at the end. I don't know how we had to drag ourselves back to nuclear annihilation. I can't speak, but I can notice a good deal, and that is this deal for Shopify. Jim, one more time, with a soothing tone, what is that promo code?
Shopify.com/JCE.
That's right. I remind you, we use Shopify ourselves, so we like them. You can too. This is Jim's show.
Well, before we go back to AEW, just for the hell of it, because we're coming up on that point, what is going on at the Arcadian Vanguard Network this week?
Oh, now? What's going on? There's great programming as always. Go to, I wasn't prepared. Of course, on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard, and on Twitter, @Superpodcast. Want to be mentioned in the wrestling news? Each and every day, get your wrestling news for free. TheWrestlingNews.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast for the morning wrestling newscast. Stick to wrestling with John McAdam, McAdamPod.com. And of course, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, SUAWPod.com. Check out both shows where you find your favorite podcast. Brian Solomon has just had on the family of Gorilla Monsoon. So if you ever wanted to hear his late wife, what she had to say, if you ever wanted to hear his daughter, these interviews have been on Shut Up and Wrestle. You should definitely check them out, especially everyone who's bought the new book.
And we should mention she did not do the interview posthumously. These were interviews conducted for the book that is now out and on sale.
The new book coming out, which is The Seance of Gorilla Monsoon, starring Brian Solomon. No, listen to the show, SUAWPod.com. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Go through the archive, 605pod.com, the mothership.
I realized last week I forgot to ask you that question, so I want to make up for it and get it in. Back to AEW. A rematch was up next between Kyle O'Reilly and Dick the Boozer. Again. You know, this would have been a great thing to do with O'Reilly when he first came in about 3 fucking years ago, wouldn't it?
This is the best thing they've done with Kyle O'Reilly in a long time. I watched the match thinking they have to do something because it stands out that Moxley couldn't beat him, that Moxley had to hit the referee. It wasn't just Moxley cheating, it was Moxley not being able to get away from Kyle O'Reilly. This has been the best thing he's done in AEW by far, even though the matches may not necessarily be the best at times.
Well, and obviously you can only get what you can only get with Moxley, right? But the point is, yes, somebody came up with the idea for a little TV program. Imagine that, where Kyle O'Reilly faces Moxley, and Moxley, as you said, has to punch the referee to get disqualified because he can't get away from the ankle lock, even though, as somebody mentioned, as Moxley was staggering to his feet to punch the referee, he grabbed the top rope to steady himself. So he technically could have got a break, but he wasn't that quick. He doesn't think that quick. But nevertheless, they bring it back, and this time they go about 10 minutes. Wasn't burdensome. And O'Reilly gets the front face lock on him, on the guillotine, as they call it, on the floor, and had him scissored around his waist with his legs. And Moxley couldn't get away, and Aubrey Ed counted them both out. So again, Moxley, this is if you'd brought Kyle O'Reilly in, you give him a win on television, maybe 2 wins on television over 3 or 4 weeks, and have him say something to people so they know what his voice sounds like. And then you put him in a little program with a guy that you featured in the main event so the fans know where to take him as a main event guy also. And that's where you do this. Now it's better than things they could be doing, but it's an example of O'Reilly has the talent to do this, but they have wasted it over the last 3 years with the goofiness and him being a part of the goofy group with the goofy angle and the whole thing with Cole and the Devils, MJF, and all the other stuff. You get the people used to, okay, it's Kyle O'Reilly, him and Roddy, the rest of those guys, they're nothing happening. And then you do this. And then he's like, it has to, just because you can put together all of the puzzle pieces for a certain part of the puzzle doesn't mean that the whole picture is a masterpiece. And nevertheless, and then Marina Schaefer knocked Aubrey Ed out, so Claudio came in and leveled Kyle, and then Roderick Strong came in, and then Wheeler came in, and Garcia came in, and Darby came in, and Briscoe came in, and it was same as always. And then the heels bail out and wait for the baby faces to berate them on the microphone, and Darby got the mic good, and it was short and sweet. And he made a little point, and then Briscoe took the microphone and beat around the bush a bit. And then he was trying, or supposed to, set up for Pockets, of all people, to make the challenge for Blood and Guts at the pay-per-view. He gives the microphone to Pockets, and he said, well, Blood and Guts. He ruined the pay-per-view main event challenge. Why would they let this dipshit speak? It just shit all over the whole thing. However, let's remember the whole thing is now they've got a Blood and Guts match on pay-per-view with the Boar Horsemen against Mark Briscoe, Darby Allin, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly, apparently, right? And Pockets. So now they're doing underneath preliminary Blood and Guts matches.
I think Tony sees the Death Riders and Orange Cassidy as not being underneath preliminary guys. I think you could definitely argue in terms of who's a star in AEW, Moxley, Darby. Briscoe, again, you want to talk about people, if they had only done this in the beginning when they came in, but they're setting up Blood and Guts. The interesting thing is, when is Blood and Guts?
I think that November 22nd is the date of their pay-per-view, if I believe.
And so that's
If
November.
memory serves.
And then November 29th is WWE Survivor Series War Games. So what do you think that says?
It says that we're going to see a bunch of the same old shit. And yes, I agree. The way he's been used, Moxley is the worst wrestler in the world, but the way he's been used, he's a main event guy.
Right.
And Darby is a main event guy. Briscoe was on that precipice where he could or couldn't. The people still like him. But you got Wheeler Useless. You got Garcia. You've got Roddy, bless him. Again, great worker, presented like a dipshit. Claudio. What the and the mascot. So then they went to a commercial break. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're about to get 3 War Games matches in a week because it's going to be men's and women's at the WWE Survivor Series.
Well, no.
And if they only
There's going to be 4. There's going to be 4.
They're doing a women's one too? Okay, great.
I was going to mention that they're doing, yes, this company, as bad as it is when the WWE does a men's and women's War Games and takes all the fucking steam out of the real men's War Games, that is the real one, at least they've got some women that are not going to fall on their face to embarrass themselves. I understand they're going to do a women's blood and guts match. So in the space of 7 days, we're going to see.
Actually, I'm wrong about 7 days because the AEW one is on the 12th in Greensboro.
November 12th?
November 12th in Greensboro.
I thought that was the 22nd.
No, it's not going to be a weekend. It's going to be, apparently it's going to be on Dynamite.
Oh, Jesus H. Christ. So it's not going to be on a pay-per-view. They're just going to do women's blood and guts on TV.
Yes.
What the fuck? The point is, it's the same old shit. Women's blood and guts, men's blood and guts, women's war games, men's war games. We're going to get to see the WWE version and the fucking great value generic version of all of these matches over a 2-week period. Oh, joy, oh, bliss.
It's like when the NWA came to Nassau Coliseum with the Bunkhouse Stampede and the WWF all of a sudden had the Bunkhouse Brawl at the Nassau Coliseum, won by Jim Duggan.
Well, at least he knew his way around a bunkhouse. All right, so they came back from a commercial break, and there was Mercedes Moon and Chris Statlander already in the back fighting, and they fought out into the arena and into the ring. And then Athena attacked Statlander, and they beat Statlander up until Willow ran out and the heels ran off. And there's more of that particular story. Athena has now become Mercedes Moon's partner in crime. And then the women's tag team championship tournament match was up with Julia Hart and Blue Sky against Jamie Hayter and the Queen. What happened, Brian?
Action-packed wrestling spectacular. And one tries to remember the finish. I believe that it was the team with Tekla. But then I'm thinking, did the other team win? I don't remember what the result was.
Well, good, because nobody gives a shit. There's 2 more belts that are going to go to 2 more interchangeable people.
Damn, I can't remember who won the fucking match. Who moved on in the tournament? It's a big tournament. It's big.
It's huge. You know what the big next match was? Brian, I know you're gonna find this hard to believe that they would give something away like this on free television, the magnitude of this. A 4-way match to determine the number 1 contender for the person who gets the title shot at the pay-per-view. They just did this with the tag teams an hour previously. And the last match is the same thing, only with the singles instead of the tags. Samoa Joe and Ricochet and Bobby Lashley and Hook. Bless the young man. I think his father's just a wonderful fellow. But everybody, even these fans, knew he didn't belong in the fucking deal, and they put him in it so Joe could choke somebody out. And because of the connection that they've had previously when Hook was one of the ops. But again, is Tony just lost? Is he just stuck? Is he, four-way? Has he just thrown his hands up? The same goddamn thing, the same show. And then they went 11 minutes, just long enough to go into the overrun. And 1 minute into the overrun, Joe was choking Hook out because they had some bullshit angle to do. They protected Lashley as well as they could, but he was chasing Ricochet off, who had taken a cheap shot on him or whatever. But Jesus Christ, to pick, why would you, in what logical world would Tony even pick these four guys to be the number one contender when he's got 18 people that are already holding singles belts and these ain't none of them? It's just meaningless. So comments on the match before we talk about the angle, if any.
No, I mean, again, it's not even just the two on this show. I'm sick of the multi-man matches, and it always seems like it's just, you talk about lazy booking being the no DQ, no time limit matches. This is the laziest thing in wrestling. We'll have a three-way match. We'll have a four-way match. I mean, it's the laziest thing in wrestling. It was something unnecessary until 1993.
Hey, watch out now. It's not my fault. I didn't know. I was like, what was Oppenheimer? All the people that worked on the fucking nuclear fission and shit. We didn't know all this information would be used for evil. So anyway, Joe and Hobbs and Shapoopy are in the ring. Tony Schiavone has been dressed as the Phantom of the Opera like he did on a Halloween Havoc for WCW 30 fucking years ago. That only, again, the smallest subset of people remember. And they've had people in costumes in the back of the building through these little backstage vignettes. So Tony says, okay, well, now we've got our challenger, so now we're going to bring in our Halloween crew with the contract for the title match. What this, then you could immediately see something was coming from a mile away, because here comes the giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and a giant cow and a giant chicken and a giant bull and others in costume into the ring. And again, Adam Page was the Stay Puft Marshmallow fellow at one of the Halloween shows they did a couple of years ago and surprised somebody, whoever the fuck. So when they all get in the ring, Joe tells Hobbs and Shapoopy, beat all them guys up in the costumes. And they do, and they grab the Marshmallow Man and they pull his head off, and it's some nobody. So then Joe signs the contract. And then they stand there, and you could tell they're trying to get everybody in the right place. And Joe gets the microphone and cuts a promo on Adam Page, who's not there. But he's talking about what he's going to do to Page. But they're all standing awkwardly, and there's some awkward waiting. And then from the floor, because Tony Schiavone's got out of the ring, from the floor, they get a shot from behind the Phantom. And you hear Tony's voice, let's propose now a toast. To, like it's what Schiavone always does, toast Samoa Joe.
That's ever happened ever. I toast the wrestlers.
And yet, let's have a toast now that he signed the contract after he beat up our people in costume. And they hand in bottles of champagne where the heels now are going to toast each other. And the Phantom gets in the ring now and has the microphone in front of his face, and Tony's voice is playing, and he repeats the same goddamn message. But you can tell that the jaw movement from the fucking guy in the ring as dressed as the Phantom is not matching this. And to be honest, if nobody was watching, if you weren't paying any attention at all, you wouldn't really know what was up. But because it was so glaringly obvious, when they say, let's bring out the Halloween crew, you knew something was going to happen. So they switched. Shivani switched on the floor with Adam Page, who was dressed with a wig and a fucking fake beard, as the Phantom of the Opera instead of Shivani, and he breaks a bottle over Joe's head. But then to show you how goddamn lost they are, how fucking lost they are, Adam Page breaks a champagne bottle over Samoa Joe's head, and Joe goes down. And then Page jumps out on the apron, and Joe has to stand up so Page can hit him with a buckshot lariat. And then he gets on top of him and hits him with 16 fake fucking punches that never came near and were in no way convincing. He broke a bottle over the guy's head. Break the bottle. The guy's laying there immobile. Take your fucking wig and mask off and get your pop. You fucking idiot. You complete moron. You imbecile. So it takes you breaking a bottle over a guy's head. Then he gets up, you hit him with your finish, and then you got to get on him and punch him 16 times in a way that looks like a pussy girl because you're weak. I don't know why else. What the fuck? So they can't even do an angle without doing too much and making the baby face look like a moron. But it was a cute idea. And the people popped in the building. And there's ways they could have not telegraphed it that would have been better, but it wasn't bad. But then the payoff of the whole thing is the Phantom breaks a bottle over the guy's head, and that's forgotten 5 seconds later when they go to the wrestling move, followed by the weak shit. So you forgot about the bottle.
Yeah, I had forgotten about the bottle. I remember the surprise, not the bottle. And actually,
Yeah.
it was a surprise to me because I wasn't paying enough attention to the Shivani character. I was waiting for something to happen because it was obviously telegraphed something would happen, but I wasn't paying attention to Adam Page or Shivani at all. So
what called my attention to Shivani also was when I realized that you were hearing his voice and him making this statement, but they were trying as best as they could not to show him until he got in the ring. And then the jaw was not matching the voiceover, which was, he was saying the same thing again anyway. I'm like, why? What? Then I realized it's not him.
So should Samoa Joe be mad at Shivani for obviously participating in this and lending his voice?
Yes, I think he ought to Coquina clutch Shivani to fucking
Right.
Kingdom Come. He had to be in on it.
Or maybe he's stupid, because who would fall for Shivani saying, and now a toast? When has that ever happened? Never.
Well, but it's the same point. You had Shivani and Paige. They obviously had to collaborate and cross-dressing with each other. So I think he's guilty. So anyway, Adam Page is going to wrestle Samoa Joe again on the pay-per-view after he just beat him.
But I guess just to wrap this up, the specific point when it comes to a weapon that's not typically used that should be devastating, that should be the out. Not
Yes.
that and then more stuff that's not needed.
And it's, I know the old saying is that, well, you're following a shooting with a stabbing, and there's, there's a moral to that story. But when you think about this, Yes, the breaking the bottle over a guy's head, that'll do some damage. Okay, the buckshot, that'll hurt a guy too, but the guy that you just broke the bottle over his head has to stand up for you to do that. So, wasn't no reason to do it except it's fancy and you wanted to do it. And then when you get on top of a guy and hit him 16 times and they all look like shit and his face is not caved in, then you've just started out running over a guy with a fucking car and now you ended up farting on him while you're going in the wrong direction. They've been going in the wrong direction for quite a while, though. Speaking of direction, before we get out of here, the direction of the ratings has not been promising. And if anybody out there missed it when we went over it on shows a couple weeks ago, and the clips are on YouTube where our YouTube channel, if you want to go back and refresh yourself, but the Nielsen people have switched to another methodology of gathering the ratings. And since then, a lot of the pro sports and football have shown kind of increases. And most of the other programs were a small variation either way. And wrestling has gotten slammed and has been down 15%, 20%, whatever, from the old methodology just a few weeks ago. And also, they're being more, Brian, is it stingy or proprietary with their information? We don't even get the quarter hours anymore. They just, fuck that. Again, nobody's going to know about that. Who was threatened?
Oh, yeah. No, this is an interesting thing, and we'll see going forward what happens here. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics posted something for subscribers on their Patreon. Note for readers: I don't expect to publish quarter-hour TV ratings for the foreseeable future. Our sourcing that had provided data appears to have been asked to stop sharing it, likely as a result of pressure connected to Nielsen. Last Friday, I received an email from Nielsen in response to an earlier media inquiry about HBO Max viewership, which Warner Bros. Discovery had by that time answered. The message copied several members of Nielsen's legal and policy team. The media relations representative stated only that the team had some questions, and that's in quote, about the data I've reported. Nielsen hasn't followed up, and I haven't received any threat or warning. Based on the tone and timing, I suspect the email was meant mainly to signal concern. And then he explains how what they're doing is transformative, it's fair use under the First Amendment, and he doesn't think there should be any problem. But, and this is a key phrase here probably, I also recognize Nielsen's clients may have contractual obligations with Nielsen. The timing, especially around Nielsen's recent rollout of its big data plus panel methodology, suggests that Nielsen's sensitivity about how their data is perceived, particularly as the Media Rating Council is reportedly reconsidering whether to accredit the new methodology after initially granting accreditation. So that seems to have stopped the quarter-hour ratings not just for WrestleNomics, but everywhere. We have not seen any quarter hours from any source.
Well, and that's, again, it ain't a good long-term thing for wrestling, for any wrestling company or the wrestling business in general, if they continue to use these ratings in this fashion, and wrestling is the one that got the drubbing of all of the other programming on the world of the television and streaming today. So while they're using it, this is what the advertisers and the networks are going to go by because they're not going to have anything else. And with that being said, we had been talking about Dynamite, looking kind of pitiful when it was down in the 600,000s. And then they got into the 500,000s and every once in a while would bust back over 6 with the old methods. And we were like, can the network be happy with this? And there's all these rumors that more people are going to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. including maybe Netflix now. They might buy it. But now they're down in the 4s. And how low can you go? How much more can they tolerate? October 22nd, October 29th, Brian, do you have those numbers? Because I meant to have them, I don't have them.
Yeah, I have pulled up the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th.
Well, what were all those numbers?
Dynamite on Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, 8 to 10 p.m. What was that? Hold on, I'm actually going to tell you what the lineup was, or at least what the main thing was, because I got my notes here, as well as this. So this would have been 2 weeks ago. Jim, I got my notes here. October 15th was Dynamite with, let's see, you had Tony Storm and Statlander's sit-down interview and then Brawl, followed by the Gates of Agony versus the Hurt Syndicate. Darby Allin and Moxley's cinematic jail sit-down. Claudio versus Roddy. Callis birthday party at a restaurant. Omega Jurassic Express versus Callis family. Ops match. And then Collision built into the show. They did 534,000 viewers from 8 to 10 p.m. that night.
Now, was that the first week of the new method or the last week of the old method? I think that was first week of the new method, wasn't it?
Oh, no. The new method had been in place for a little while. I believe it started September 26th.
Good Lord, how time is flying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, and do you have, by the way, what did Dynamite do on September 19th?
I would need a second to pull that up.
September 19th
24th.
Friday. It would have been September 24th. That would have been the old or the new method.
September 24th is 636,000 viewers. I think that may have been the last week with the old method.
Okay, that's what I'm driving at. September 24th was 636. That's the old method. The new method kicked in. Well, what was the next 2 weeks before October 15th?
Hold on. Well, Jim, I have here Wednesday, October 1st, Dynamite, 8 to 10:30 p.m. 465,000 viewers. This was big data plus panel methodology.
Okay, and what about October 8th?
October 8th? Or actually, October 7th. They aired Tuesday.
Titty Tuesday.
Title Tuesday, 8 to 10 p.m., Tuesday, October 7th, 321,000 viewers.
Okay, and that's an off night, but nevertheless. So we've got September 24th, the last week of the old method, 636. Then the following Wednesday, 465. Following Tuesday, take that out of the equation. Off night, 321. They come back on October 15th, 534, over 100,000 lower than the big one in September. What was October 22nd?
October 22nd Dynamite was San Antonio, Ops versus Hurt Syndicate, Darby promo, women's 4-team tag match, Mercedes Moné cake celebration, Moxley versus O'Reilly part 1, and Fletcher and Callis promo, and that's about that. Bandito main event with Briscoe, Bandito versus Okada main event, excuse me. 8 to 10 p.m., 477,000 viewers.
Okay. And the 29th, the show that we just talked about, those numbers have come in. What did they do there?
The most recent AEW Dynamite, October 29, 2025. This is reported by WrestleNomics. 8 to 10:08 p.m., 459,000 viewers. Not counting Max.
So in the 4 Wednesday nights since the new method, they've gone from the last week of the old method, 636, to 465, 534, 477, and 459. Now, same thing's happening to the WWE. They've lost a good 10, 15, 20% of the audiences, last time I checked, that were being measured under the new method, but they start with bigger numbers. And as well, they're more diversified in that there's some programs on streaming and some programs on cable and some programs on broadcast. But this can't be in any way good for AEW's interactions with WBD potential sale or not coming up. They just keep getting lower.
Again, it's important to note that AEW, although getting hundreds of millions overall over several years for media rights, is still a fairly cheap program for TBS, but that doesn't always save something.
You get what you pay for.
But I don't know if it's unfair to wrestling or more realistic to wrestling, the new ratings methodology, because also it's happening in the middle of a downturn. If not business-wise for everyone, just general vibes-wise. AEW does not feel hot. WWE feels hot and you don't understand why, because you don't feel it. It looks hot, I guess is maybe a better way to say it. But right now I think we're in a downturn. So that's the other thing that, whether it's AEW or WWE, you have to account with the ratings.
Well, you know what you have to account with on this program, Brian, don't you?
What's that?
Well, what that is no matter when we finish one, there's always going to be another one coming up soon. And that's the case for this one. We have finished one, but there'll be another one coming up soon. We're going to talk about, I guess, Saturday night's main event and Monday night's Raw and whatever else happens during that time period. The World Series. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Prince Andrew. Oh, well,
Andrew.
Just Andrew, sorry.
I'll have you know he's Andrew Mountbatten Smithington. But we're going to talk about all those things on the drive-thru because this episode of The Experience has officially expired. Do you have any closing thoughts?
You're going to find out he's related to the Battens.
Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Old Mountbatten.
we have traced the royal family of Windsor all the way back to West Virginia and the Batten family.
That's where they lived, Mountbatten.
All right, we ain't going to top that.